A very difficult thing to do is to find a good retail butcher. When you don't have a butcher shop and something is prepackaged, you're looking at that package. Now, if that package has a circle on it, and in that circle is a USDA establishment number, what most people don't know is that you could follow that meat all the way back to where it was processed. So you're able to see the safety of where the beef is coming from and where it's coming from. It's very important. The difference between that and just someone in a butcher shop telling you that it is what it is, there's a big difference. So you have traceability with the USDA and you have food safety, which they're very, very good at. When you don't have a supermarket with the USDA circle on it, and it's the butcher that's cutting the meat, you're looking for someone that you can engage in conversation with. We often say most butchers wear white coats. Look at the coat that the butcher is wearing. Does he have a nice clean coat on and the facility looks like it's sanitized? Very, very important. You're looking for the grading of beef. Within the USDA, there is a grading division. What the grader is looking for are two things. One is intramuscular fat. So that's going to be these flecks of beautiful fat that run through the inside of the muscle. The other aspect is they want to see aging. The development of cartilage to bone is very important. What we're looking for in good beef is anything that's less than 30 months of age. Actually, to be much closer to 24 months or under is the most desirable. As you can see, something that does not have much intramuscular fat has a very, very pretty color. It's a little bit darker red than what's next to it, but a little bit less fat and will be a little bit more chewy. This would be utility grade. A steak like this comes from usually something over 30 months of age, which poses one more risk, which is BSE, which is very rare, but it does exist, and it has only been detected in animals over 30 months of age. Right next to it, this grade is called Select. So it has about 40% more intramuscular fat than Utility. In order to even get into the Select range, you have to be within that 30 months of age or less. One step up from that is Choice. Now, this is usually where you're going to have your Black Angus animals. Black Angus as a breed is just very consistent, and the yield is great. The fact that it has a lot of intramuscular fat makes Black Angus very desirable. It's a breed that we really love. When we jump from Select into Choice, which has about 40% more intramuscular fat, we then go to Prime. As a country, this steak, with this amount of marbling and intramuscular fat, which is going to make the steak very tender and very flavorful, this only represents 4% of what the entire country has to offer. Getting your hands on a piece of the 4% is very difficult, and that's why the price on Prime is always very high. To go one step further, a Japanese-style beef, Kobe, which the American version is called Wagyu, and it gets very confusing. Wagyu just means Japanese-style beef made in America or grown in America. You could see the amount of intramuscular fat here compared to our Prime. It's a big, big difference. There's probably sometimes 40, 50, 60% more intramuscular fat in something that's Wagyu or Kobe. I still believe, and amongst butchers, USDA Prime is the best grade of beef that you can get for an American-style steak. The Japanese version of cooking steak like this would be to slice this really thin and to sear gorgeous pieces like this that have that. So a lot of that fat's going to go out in the cooking process. It's going to leave the cut, and it's going to leave behind something that's very tender, very juicy. To cook an American-style steak, an American-style cut using Japanese-style beef, it just has so much fat content in it that it's almost uncomfortable. So for that great traditional American-style cut, USDA Prime is the best. If you can't afford that or it's not accessible, Choice would be the next best selection. If you're on a budget, or maybe you don't want that intramuscular fat, maybe you want a leaner steak, then you could go down to Select or all the way down to Utility. Personally, I stay in the choice and prime range, and that's what I feel is of best value and the best beef that America has to offer. Most often I'm asked, where do I get prime beef? Really, specialty butcher shops are going to have it available. When it comes to large supermarket chains, it's very rare to ever find that. When it comes to cooking any of these steaks, I would prepare all of these differently. So if it's something that's very, very lean, I love the flavor of eating almost raw beef. If I was going to make a carpaccio or carne cruda where I was going to grind it like steak tartare, that's what I would want because I don't like to eat raw fat. When it comes to, let's say, prime, I want to get a real serious hot sear on the outside. I want to make sure my grill is at about 500 or 600 degrees before I put the steak on there. So I'm going to get that exterior sear and still leave the center a medium rare or rare so I could taste the flavor. I could taste all the love that's been put into growing this steak. And again, when it comes to Wagyu or Kobe, anything like that with this amount of fat, the best way to cook that would be to sear this on both sides. This is going to be some of the most tender beef that you could ever eat. You just can't eat much of it. It's a little heavy, so that's why you often see it as appetizers when it's served correctly. When it comes to beef consumption, there's a lot of negative press about its health concerns. Sure, if you're eating Kobe beef every night, it's a problem. Your everyday steak would be something along the lines of select or choice because you don't have that intramuscular fat. And what fat is there is really going to cook off and it's going to leave you with some very lean protein. For me, what I call a Friday night steak or Saturday night steak, a steak that I want to eat after a long week, is the prime. That's USDA Prime. That's when I'm going to treat myself to a great steak. So if it's not at a supermarket and myself cooking it at home, I'm in a restaurant ordering that. That is my one guilty pleasure that I will take, is to eat my prime steak. All beef is grass-fed for about 85% of its life. It's the last portion of its life which is very important. Anything of quality is finished on all-natural grain and or corn. There's been a lot of debate as to whether or not that's healthy for the animal or not. I could tell you, if you put corn in one side of a farm's field and you put grass on the other, the grass is not going to get touched. The animals love the corn. It puts that intramuscular fat on. And the carbon footprint, which previously was thought to be much larger on corn finished product because you have to grow the corn, you have to grow the animal, it winds up that it's the opposite. So in order to get a grass-fed steak to the same weight as something that's corn finished, it has to live that much longer and go well above the 30 months of age. So it's very important to know that steer especially love corn. It's already ground for them so they can digest it, as opposed to something that's grass-fed. You're not going to have much flavor. I've done flavor tests blindfolded with 20 people at a table, and 20 out of 20 will choose something that's corn finished. And I think that's important to say because as retail shoppers, we see these buzzwords, these marketing terms like grass-fed as if it's a real positive thing. As of right now, I have not had a grass-fed steak that I would take over something that was corn finished. The corn farmer is usually located right next to the beef grower. So there's a very local, sustainable circle that's created there. Corn growers love to grow corn, beef growers love to grow beef and finish it off on corn so that we're getting into the choice and prime realm. The steaks that we love to eat, most people call cows. They're not cows. Cows are older animals that are over 30 months of age and are used for milking. We sell steer. Steer are younger. They are the castrated males. They are grown for this industry, for great steaks. The next time you're telling your friends you're going out to buy beef, you could specify you're going out to get steer. These are the things that I look for, and that's how I select my beef.